I believe that any disease or any obstacle in life, being, physical, emotional, or whatever, is an opportunity to grow and to work on ourselves.
Welcome to Cancer Talks, a podcast sharing personal stories of transformation from people whose lives have been touched by cancer. My name is Cheryl Buck, and I will be guiding today's conversation. Since 2008, I've been researching the dominant narrative that surrounds cancer, which I've come to realize is just one side of the story. I thought maybe one way to get a fuller, more colorful picture would be to hear stories from people all over the world who've been touched by cancer. Today's guest, Beatrice Levinson, is an expert in gut health as it relates to our mental and physical well-being. She joins us today from France to share her personal cancer story, along with a lifetime of wisdom in natural medicine. Hi, Beatrice.
Hi, Cheryl.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this conversation with me today for Cancer Talks.
Well, I'm very happy to do that and happy to share whatever I can share.
Wonderful. You have a lot to share, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard your story a number of times, and honestly, I can't get enough of it. I love it every time I hear it, so I'm excited for other people to hear it too.
Well, I can say it again and again. It's a pleasure.
Okay, good. So I wanted to just say this morning I was thinking, how long have I known Beatrice? And I asked you before we started recording here, and it sounds like it's at least 10 years that we've known each other. I met Beatrice for the first time in Palo Alto, where she was giving a talk on health. And I think a friend and I saw a sign or something in the newspaper. I'm not sure how we heard about it, but it's one of those things that was meant to be. And I met your husband, John, at that time, and then got to know both of you better over the past decade. And you were also my naturopathic doctor for those few years that you would come to California. Anyway, where I'd like to start is with your early life. And this is part of the story that I absolutely love.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was born in a family that used natural medicine before I was born, actually, because my father, who as a career was in insurance, got really sick. He got tuberculosis in his lungs when he was in his 30s. And at that time, it was very severe. He had a big hole in one of his lung and was hospitalized and was given heavy-duty antibiotics. But at that time, a client of my parents said to my mom, well, you should take him to this guy, this naturopath that lived in who knows where, in the middle of France, called Nevers, very little town, because this man has helped so many of my friends and family, etc. So you should take him there. So my mom took my dad out of the hospital. The story goes that they signed a discharge because he was not in condition to get out, but he wanted out. So went to see this guy, and this guy ended to be a naturopath that was making his own herbal remedies, even created a breakfast cereal powder chocolate. I was raised on that. I loved it. He created all kinds of potions. And he was kind of a fascinating guy. I remember him and his wife when I was little. And my dad got really interested in the way that this guy was working. And he learned a lot of things through him. So this guy helped my dad to heal. He gave him herbal remedies and nutritional remedies, and also a very special product that they called a vaccine of the giant turtles. Because the giant turtles, you may know we don't have many left on Earth, but they never get TB. They're immune to TB. So who knows where he was getting this product, but my dad took several of those turtle, they called it vaccines. Anyway, my dad kept on smoking like a chimney. And as every French person here, there was a lot of dinners together with alcohol and stuff. Healed his TB and learned a lot how to use herbal remedies and nutrition, and changed his lifestyle later on, and became what I called a healer, because he had no degree, no certificate, no diploma, no nothing, but he was a very smart person and learned so much over many years, basically in 40 years, that toward the end of his career as an insurance agent, he became what I call a healer. He would receive people in his house, our house. He had a little office just for that, and would concoct for them herbal tinctures and remedies, and he was very successful. So from the age about 60 to 89, he died at 89, he was still working. That's what he did. He received patients, he saw them, he talked to them. He was very talkative, so they could stay an hour or two or three. They ended up having dinner because my mom was a good cook. And when I talked to those people that went through my parents' house, they have wonderful memories of my parents. They were really a good team. My mom didn't know anything specifically, but she was a good person and people needed to talk, and she was a good listener. So my parents did that, and I grew up in that environment, seeing people coming through. And when we were sick as kids, he was taking care of us. So he used the pendulum and he was finding the right remedies, and we would take that. And I grew up like this. So I was in pretty good health, except for ear infection that we handled always naturally. I had no vaccines at all whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. So what happened when you went to school and they said you need to have a vaccination?
Yeah, I remember that was like not scary, but worrisome for me, because every year we had a nurse coming through the class and she would check us. And we have in France a little like a book where you put all your vaccine recording and all your disease as a baby. And my little book was empty. There was nothing on it. Just the day I was born and how much I weigh, and that's it, basically.
Wow.
So the nurse was like, oh, yeah, this one. My last name was Legras. And she said, oh, yeah, that's the Legras family. Next. She was just mad because my brother and I had nothing in our vaccination little booklet, but
yes,
we had a homeopath at that time, an MD homeopath that would write a certificate and say that we were allergic. So we went through it without any vaccine whatsoever.
Yeah, right. Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in addition, so your dad did a lot of prescribing herbs and things like that. What role did food play? And I know, obviously, that you're in France and you were, I'm guessing, eating natural food.
Yeah. My mom and I would go to the farmer's market twice a week on Wednesday and Saturday, faithfully. She loved the farmer's market. My mom grew up on a farm. Her brother, my uncle, is 87. He's still on the same farm. Wow. And they always had their own produce, and being animals or vegetables. So we grew up on a very healthy quality food. And I think that makes a huge difference. We ate everything, meat, fish, and veggies and fruits and everything. But it was always very, very good quality. And my parents continued to eat like that all their lives. And same thing, they had no disease, and my grandparents had no disease either. Well, my father had Parkinson, but they had no plugged arteries, no high blood pressure, they had aches and pains. And like my uncle, when I call him, I said, "How are you doing?" He said, "Well, we're doing just fine. Beside aches and pains, everything is fine."
Uh-huh.
And they still drive, and they play cards, and they sing, and they dance, and they do everything.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic.
But even in the US, talking to many patients I had over the 20 years, it's not that far away in generations. A lot of people said, "Well, my grandparents ate like that. We grew up like that." It became bad, I would say, after the Second War, where
Right.
all food got modernized, and equipment and quantities and profits and more money, to the detriment of the quality of the food. But hopefully it's coming back also. More and more more people are conscientious of healthier quality food nowadays.
And many people, thanks to you. I thank you. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about cancer. I know that you have not had cancer in your own life. However, you have been touched by cancer. Can you talk about that, Beatrice?
Sure. So I lived in the US for 20 years because I met my husband, John, who was American. We met in France. John was traveling, working in Europe, so we met in 1993. And John was a super healthy guy all of his life. He was older than me. He grew up in one of those family where his mother, so he's born in 1938, to give you perspective. His mother always told the kids to eat good quality food. And it was quite, I think, remarkable at the time that she went through the modern food but didn't believe in it. So at John's table when he was a kid, they had broth every night for supper, and they had lots of vegetables, and they were not allowed to have sodas and so on and so forth. So he had 4 sisters, so 5 kids, very, very, very healthy. And I say that because I think it really contributed to his great health all of his life. But we came back to France in 2014. We decided to come back and live here in the south of France. And John got diagnosed with a tongue cancer in 2016. So he had no symptoms, nothing. It's just that at some point, I noticed that his neck was swollen. So because of the swollen neck, and he noticed it too, he had first an X-ray and then a biopsy, and they took a biopsy of a nodule in his neck, and it was cancerous. So that was how it was diagnosed. Then he had an endoscopy, and they found a tumor at the base of his tongue. So that was a big, of course, like everybody diagnosed with cancer. It's quite shocking. But John was such a character, and also strong body and mind. First thing he said when we got the diagnosis, he said, "Well, I'll die with my boots on." That's all. That's all he wanted. And what he meant is that he wanted to stay active. He wanted to stay in life.
Right.
No matter what happened. We didn't know how it would turn out. So we decided first to do alternative medicine. And the first thing that John did, actually, to the counsel and recommendation of my mentor and teacher, Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, who was the GAPS author, Gut and Psychology Syndrome. So he fasted. He did a fast for 30 days.
Wow.
And it was amazing because John was such a good eater. I mean, he was an Epicurean. He loved food, especially French food. I could
Yeah.
cook frogs and snail for him. He would love it. And duck and everything. So, but once he had his mind into something, he did a 30-day fast on vegetable broth.
Wow.
He lost a lot of weight. He
Hmm.
felt good through it. He had no side effect, no detox reaction, and his knee pain went away. Never had knee pain ever after that. And that's it. And then after the 30 days, he started to do a ketogenic diet. So ketogenic diet is no sugar, no carbs, and a high fat diet. That 80% of your food intake is from fat. So we did
Hmm.
that, and during the whole time it was monitored. We talked into the oncologist and the ear, nose, and throat professor to keep monitoring him while we were doing that, and they accepted.
Right.
So,
Wow.
yeah, which was great.
Yes.
So we did that, and he was monitored every 2-3 months. He would have an endoscopy to look at his tongue tumor, and it was pretty stable. We would say growing, but very slowly, very slowly.
Hmm.
So although the professor was insisting that he start doing chemo, John refused for about a year.
Uh-huh.
And after a year, we switched gears because we were not having the result that we were expecting, which was to reduce the tumor. And
Right.
we went into Gerson
Uh-huh.
diet, which is the opposite of ketogenic diet. So
Right.
in Gerson, it's vegetables, it's vegan.
Yes.
And we went to the Gerson clinic. There's 2 Gerson clinic in the world. There's in Mexico and then in Hungary. So
Hmm.
we went in Hungary, and John was all geared up to do that. Even if he loved the steak, he was ready to go into vegan and eat lots of vegetables, which he loved too.
Uh-huh.
And the Gerson Center was fabulous. I mean, I loved everything of it, the team, the facilities, everything. It was really well done. And we started the process. So juicing, vegan food, all organic, and then supplements. And during the first week, there is an evaluation with an oncologist, and we did that. And at that time, the oncologist said to John, well, it's good to do Gerson, but you may consider to do chemotherapy at the same time. And that is a piece of information that John didn't want to hear, or at least what I would say is that he knew, he had read and learned that when you do Gerson, it's better to not do chemotherapy. So it was like counter information and confusing and
Yeah.
disappointing for him. Very
Right.
disappointing.
Mm.
And because he was who he was with a strong personality, and he was on or off. John, when we met, he said I had I have 2 speeds. It's 100% or 0. And that's, for a personality like that, there's no compromising, there's no in between. He got
Hmm.
so disappointed that the doctor would tell him to do chemo and Gerson that
Mm.
in his head he decided to stop Gerson
Right.
because that was like nearly betrayal. Betraying his belief system was totally upside down.
Hmm.
So he didn't want to pursue it, and we came back from Hungary after a week of being at the Gerson clinic. Normally we were staying 2 weeks. We were scheduled to stay 2 weeks. So I personally found that not the right decision, but it was his decision, and
Yeah.
I could not go against his decision. It was for him to know and choose what felt right for him. So we stopped Gerson, And then after that, he went back to the oncologist and said, okay, now I'm ready to do chemo and whatever you want to do. So he did chemo a lot. He had chemo for a year, an entire year. Yeah, every 3 weeks. And I've never seen anyone going through chemo so, I would say easily, but that's not the word, you know. But he had like nearly no side effects.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. No diarrhea. No, well, he lost some hair, but he didn't have much. So that didn't change his face. And he always had, you know, nearly shaved, very, very short hair. It was really not something that affected him that much. He would come from the chemo tired. He would lie down for 2 or 3 hours, and that was it. That was it.
Yeah, his determination to make things work, I would say, has played a big part of his reaction to chemo.
For sure. Both his determination, his mental strengths, and his physical strengths. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But then what really affected him a lot is the radiation on the neck. That was really bad. Really, really bad because it burned the outside skin. That's what we could see. But it burned the inside. And from that moment on, then he had difficulties to eat to the point of not being able to swallow anything. And it was fed intravenously. First through the stomach, like a gastrectomy, and then IV. Yeah. And that was very bad for his morale because John loved eating.
Yes.
So that's how I came into very close contact to cancer. And that was hard on me because as a naturopath, I told him, I said, well, boy, you know, anything I can help. I can help cardiovascular disease. I could help someone to recover from heart attack. I could help so many conditions, but I felt unable to help through cancer at that time.
Right.
But we sailed through it very well. I mean, we were a good team, and I know I helped him a lot. But that, I would say, I don't know if it was not enough. I feel deeply that John was actually ready to die. It was not a problem for him. He had been talking about his death and preparing for it maybe 10 years before he was diagnosed.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. I've never met someone that does that, but he prepared for it. You know, he was looking at funeral homes and how much it would cost because John had to organize everything. So he had a file.
That's funny.
And the file was named the layout program for John.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That just sounds so much like him. I love it.
I know. And it was like, I asked him years ago, I said, why do you look into it? He said, well, you know, I think it's better to be prepared, and when it will happen, then you have everything you need. So,
Yes.
but to come back to his way to handle cancer, like I said at the beginning, he said, well, I will die with my boots on. So what was important for him is to stay in life, and we did that. We were invited, we went. And if he was tired, he would lie down. But he died in February, and on the 1st of January, we were at friends having fun, you know. And he kept working with me. He was handling all my administration. He kept traveling. In November, we traveled. We went to California, then we went to Washington, D.C. We never visited, we visited. John was in life to the end, really. And that's what was the most important for him, is to stay active, to stay in life. He didn't want, like he said, I'm 100% or none. So he didn't want to be half alive and half dead. That didn't work for him.
I remember being with him towards the end when I was in France, in the south of France, and I hadn't seen him for a while, and I didn't know that he had cancer. And you told me, I think he told me, I was amazed at what he was doing. First of all, he drove my sister and I, you were in the passenger seat, and he drove us on, it's like a racetrack when you're driving in France from the airport to the place that we were going. I mean, he was just amazing that he, just like you said, he was fully participating. And I know he couldn't eat, most things, but he was there with us when we went to see the black pigs up in the mountains in France, and the family put on the big feast for us. And, he was right there at the table participating with everybody.
Yes.
So he was an extraordinary man.
Indeed it was. I learned a lot through him and his attitude toward life and toward death. I learned a lot. And our close friends, we have a very close friend named Dominique, and she's really afraid of death and afraid of aging. And she said, John taught me so much about dedramatizing, really.
Mm-hmm.
She became, I would say, a little bit more comfortable just being around John, because like you said, I would invite them for lunch or dinner and John could not eat. But he was at the table with us, and he was laughing with us and talking with us about everything. Then he would drink his smoothie, because that was the only thing that he could swallow. But that didn't stop him, and he didn't want people to feel bad for him. Certainly not.
Yes, he did not. That's
No.
right.
Mhm.
Yes. That was my experience of him, for sure.
Yep. So
When did he pass, Beatrice?
February 19.
2019. So 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Tell me how it's been for you since he passed. He was obviously he was your life. I mean, you and he had this magnificent life together for all those years. And can you tell me how his passing, and then looking back on that whole experience of John's cancer journey, how that changed you?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that happened for me in regard to cancer, I told you earlier, I said to John, no, not cancer, because I don't know what to do as a naturopath. I never dealt with that. And I guess I never dealt with that because it scared me. It's a disease that was scary to me as a person and also as a practitioner. And going through that with John, it helped me to not fear cancer. And today I can say that I don't fear this disease. It's just a disease, another disease like all the others. I mean, I'm used to deal with autistic children. I'm used to deal with autoimmune patients. I'm used to deal with Alzheimer patients. It's not that easy to do that. But before, I was not comfortable to help patients with cancer. But it made me way more or completely comfortable because it's a disease like any other. And I think it's very important to see that most of people are really, really scared of the word cancer, that they can't even pronounce it.
Yes.
It's like taboo to pronounce it. It's like nearly death. It's like talking about death, talking about cancer. It's taboo.
Yes.
It's
Cancer equals death.
yeah, yeah, and it's not. It doesn't have to be like that. So people could say, well, you lost your husband through it. Yes, I did, but there are so many friends and patients, for example, you, Cheryl, and many others that have been through cancer and they are well and alive. I mean, even my neighbor's mother, she's 96 now, and she starts to lose her head, but she had 3 times cancer. And she doesn't have cancer now. She's fine. She's like a rock. She had colon cancer and she had twice breast cancer. And I can't say that it's a woman that is very aware, or I can't say that it's a woman that is doing a lot of work on herself, and searching. She's not. She had, I think the way I perceive her, she had cancer. It's a disease like any other. Let's take care of it and let's move on. She just did that. And then others that I know that are more like in my round of patients, that are people that reflect a lot on why and what can I do to avoid that, and what kind of work could I do that could help the healing process. That's more of the type of person that I see and come to see me. And I know plenty of them that had cancer and they're totally fine now, and they're even better because they learned so much.
Yes. I love one of the phrases that you use, de-dramatize the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the word cancer is such a taboo word that when you have the diagnosis of cancer, it's like, oh my God, the life stops, everything stops, the clock stops, everything. It's a drama that plays right there, right at this moment. And it doesn't have to be like that. Again, John's reactions were, I will die with my boots on. It's like, well, okay, this is what it is. Life is not a picnic. We know that already.
Yes.
So it's another one of the things we have to go through. You go through divorce, you go through people that have accidents and they come back to normal life. And I think when someone is diagnosed, first of all, there's the way it's done, and it's not, I guess, necessarily, I would say, the best way. It's usually your doctor that announce that, and they're not always they don't have much time. They don't have necessarily all the training either to announce it to you in a way that could de-dramatize it.
Right.
John was not with his doctor when he got the diagnosis because it was a GP and we knew him pretty well. And John said to him, I'm a big boy, so when you get the result, please send it to me. So he did. He did, just like that. So I remember we were here, where I'm sitting right now in front of my computer on my desk, and John was on his desk. And we dealt with the diagnosis, the two of us, together. We were not in a medical setting, that's what I'm saying, which I think sometimes could increase the drama situation.
Right.
Maybe we had that luck, if we can say that. But even in a doctor's office or hospital, etc., I think they have a lot to learn about that and how to help people to receive the message and to tell her that it's not a death sentence. It's a disease. You may have osteoporosis and break your bones. Well, That's something. And you find the ways to improve that and to put it in a state that it doesn't kill you if you fall down. And it's the same for cancer. It's a disease like any other. It's not necessarily a big drama that has to go around it, and there are so many ways to handle it and to heal it. I truly believe the body can heal anything. The human person can heal anything because it has to be body, mind, and spirit, for sure.
Yes. I've heard you say what you would do if you ever got cancer. Would you like to share that?
First thing I would do is fast. And then, according to our own nature and our own metabolism and our own digestive system, I think for me, but I'm talking just for me, I would go to vegan kind of diet, more like Gerson therapy. But I don't say that it's good for everybody. The thing about cancer or any other disease is that we have to find the best healing solution for ourselves, because it's not the same for me than for you, Cheryl, or than for John, or like for anybody. That's the challenge, but it makes sense. And that's also the problem with just conventional medicine. I don't say that we don't need it at time, and even for cancer, some people will need the chemo, will need the radiation, will need surgery. Maybe some of it, not all of it. It has to be a conscious decision, reflecting, thinking, researching of what is the best for me, for each of us. So that's what I would do. I would do fast, and then I would do Gerson and go from there. See what happens. I believe that any disease or any obstacle in life, being physical, emotional, or whatever, is an opportunity to grow and to work on ourselves. It really helps to search first where we're coming from, what we've done in life, what we have accomplished, what is it that we have not expressed, what is it that scares us, what is it that we want for ourselves, for our future, for our family. So I really believe that cancer, maybe more than other disease, is a enormous, important opportunity to work on ourselves and to improve ourselves, improve our health, but also improve our mental, emotional, spiritual parts, and to be better or more useful for others. I know that personal experience gives us the opportunity to help others. It's something that you can share. If you've been through cancer, you can certainly listen and hear people that have cancer and guide them. Not making any decision, but guide them. And I think it's an enormous opportunity for everyone that is diagnosed to make more work on ourselves, to grow, to experience, and then to give back. Because if we go through something like that, I believe deeply that our experiences need to be shared. We need to share that information. We need to share our experience. Again, it de-dramatize it. If people listen to these podcasts, it's going to help them understand, one, they're not alone, and two, there are solutions, and three, you can talk about it, and four, there are many different therapies, and there's so much information and so much richness in every single being. And cancer helps us to reach out more, to share more. Even if I have not been diagnosed with cancer, but going through it, I'm more able to talk about it now and to not be afraid and to give that message to others. So I'm actually grateful that I have been through it with John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's beautiful. That is the message. That is the message that we here at Cancer Talks share with you. You've done an extraordinary job of telling us about your experience of cancer with John and what you would do if you ever got cancer. It's invaluable information for people, and I just want to really, really thank you. And, you know, for me, this podcast is really dedicated to John. He was really a wonderful man.
That's very kind, Cheryl. Thank you. John is so present every single day, every single minute. As I talk now, his desk was on my right shoulder side, and I always turn my head
Yes.
on the right because I feel him. And again, he taught me, and he taught us so much. So thank you for dedicating that to him, and I'm sure he would be happy that we do that, and he would be happy to share his experience, to talk to people. He was great talking to people. He was a huge motivator. So he's been through a lot in his life, a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's very touching, Cheryl. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you. Thank John.
Yes, thank you, John.
He's one of those people I will never forget. He's just such a great human being.
I really enjoy talking to you as a person, but also for what you do, because your experience is invaluable also. And like we said earlier, sharing that experience is precious. It's very precious for people.
Yes.
So I really thank you for doing that and reaching out to people. I really truly believe everything is possible, and the body can heal from anything, any stage of cancer.
Right.
There's so many possibilities. So don't get stuck to the diagnosis as a death sentence, because it's not. That's for sure. And keep looking, searching, and you'll find answers.
That's right.
So
That is right.
that's like Forrest Gump says. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, that was just fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome, Cheryl. It's a pleasure, and anytime, or anybody that wants to reach out and talk,
Yes.
I'm good for that.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Beatrice is a wonderful example of how Cancer Talks is a storytelling platform for everyone, not just for people who've had a cancer diagnosis. I think pretty much everyone on the planet can say, in one way or another, that their lives have been touched by cancer. We look forward to hearing your story. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review in your podcast app to help others find us. This episode was produced by Claire DeLaslo and Rory Amenrud, music and editing by Annie Mernigan, and our deepest gratitude to our donors. We couldn't do this without you.